Alright, now this is a story I haven't told in a long time. It happened to me in October 6 years ago. I've told 4 or 5 people since then, and none of them believed me. I decided to stop talking about it when someone filed an anonymous tip to my school's psychologist. That was 4 years ago. I've had a lot of time to think about it since then, and I think I'm finally ready to post my story somewhere. It's about a weekend I spent in the Ouachita National Forest. I'd been planning the trip for weeks, made sure I had the weekend off work, didn't make any plans, all of that. Started buying supplies a week before I went. I was gonna go camping in the forest near my town. I'd been camping before when I was a little kid with my parents, but never as an adult, never by myself, and never in this forest. I was so excited. Now, I'm not an idiot. I took all the necessary precautions. I told a few of my friends where I was going, when I was going to be there, and when I'd be back. I told them if I go missing to call the cops and all that. I brought an extra phone battery and enough food and water to last me a fucking week. I even brought along the .308 that my dad gave me when I turned 18. Never shot the damn thing, but I figured it would at least scare off whatever the hell wanted to mess with me. I'm telling you all of this so you know I'm not just some dumb kid who decided he wanted to take a trip to the forest one day and shit his pants because he saw a bear. No. I knew exactly what I was getting into. I was prepared. Just not for, well, this. Okay, enough backstory. I'll get on with it. I left around 6 in the morning. It's an hour drive from my place, so I was expecting to get there around 7. Ended up getting there at 7:30, but I didn't mind. It was a lovely day, not a cloud in the sky, great weather, and camping in cold and rain is miserable. So I was pretty content with my arrival time. I parked my car a ways from the forest in a little clearing off the side of the road where I knew I would find it. I gathered my things, had a little snack, and headed off toward the forest. The next few hours are kind of boring, so I'll skip over them. All you need to know is that I made my way well into the forest, set up a camp, and started enjoying myself. Cooked myself lunch on the crummy campfire I made around noon, watched a pair of birds dancing at each other. I even took a few pictures of some deer I saw with my phone. Couldn't get a good shot, but at least it's proof that I was there. But something seemed off. You see, forests are normally kinda loud. Not like a city loud, but there's this constant background noise that's always going on. Rustling in the bushes and leaves, birds chirping, and animals prancing around. When I first got into the forest, that was all well and good. But the later it got, the sounds just started to go away. Not all at once. It took the better part of the day for me to notice. But yeah, the sounds slowly went away. Birds stopped chirping, bushes stopped rustling. I stopped seeing animals too. That's what made me notice. At around 4 in the afternoon, I realized I hadn't seen a bird in a while. That unsettled me, truth be told. But I steeled myself and kept enjoying the stay. I was feeling kind of lonely, what with all the quiet and all, so I called up a friend and chatted with him until sundown. After that, I realized it was getting late, so I hung up, ate again, and put out the fire. After a final assessment of my surroundings, and a look at the wondrous night sky, I crawled into my tent to sleep. I kept the rifle loaded right next to where I slept, just in case, you know? Sleeping on the cold ground in the middle of a forest isn't that easy if you aren't used to it, and considering I hadn't done it since I was a child, I was having a little trouble. It was probably 2 hours after I had lied down that I started hearing something in nature again. Now, if I had heard bushes rustling a few hours earlier, this would have been cause for celebration. But even Bear Grylls would get creeped out if it was the only thing he'd heard all night. So I did what any rational human would have done and clung to the rifle like it was the only thing keeping me from falling off a cliff. There was silence for a few minutes. The only thing I could hear was my own shaky breath. Then prancing. 4 footsteps in quick succession. No crunching of leaves or snapping of twigs, just a steady beat. It was getting louder, closer to my tent. I tried to peer through the fabric that separated me from nature, but I couldn't make out a silhouette. I clutched the rifle harder, scared as any person would be. I remember being sure that I would be safe though. Even bears will rarely attack camps unprovoked. But that natural human fear, that was overbearing, making my mind wander and my hands shake. It stopped, close to my tent, just outside of my tent. I could feel its presence near me. It was totally silent. I knew that it couldn't have been a bear. It would be sniffing the tent right now if it were. I doubted that it were a deer. They don't come out at night. Perhaps a wolf? They normally travel in packs. Even if it were a lone wolf, it wouldn't be a threat until I heard growling. But nothing. Just silence. And then it screeched. That's when I knew that that thing wasn't anything I'd seen before. Nothing makes that sort of sound. It was like a cross between some sort of bird and a human. Like the shit you hear in movies that possessed people with their heads on backwards make. That's when I let fear take over in my bladder and in my hands. I fired the gun in its direction, and dear God, that was a mistake. It screeched again and scratched the tent, tearing through the fabric, leaving a massive gash in the side. That was my first look at it, if you could call it a look. I barely saw a silhouette through the hole in my tent, but I did see its long arms shredding the side of the tent. It was trying to get to me. I fired the rifle again, but I must have missed because it didn't flinch. That was when the flight reflex took over the fight. I only wanted to do one thing: run. I turned around and fiddled with the opening of the tent, trying to keep my eye on the beast attacking me, but also trying to secure my escape as fast as I could. I did it, and dove out of the tent, breaking into a full sprint. Behind me, I heard the thing still tearing into my tent. I thought that maybe it mistook its enemy or prey for the tent and not me, but that relief didn't last long. I wasn't far from the tent when I heard its rhythmic prancing again. It was faster than me, gaining on me. If I tried to outrun it, I would surely be caught. Just then, in what was either a moment of survivalist brilliance or suicidal stupidity, I stopped and dove into a thick bush near me. I remembered that many predators in the forest rely on seeing movement more than anything else, so if I could stay still, then it would not see me. That decision saved my life. It ran past me, stopping in the same place where I stopped. I didn't notice before I hid, but that spot is just under an opening in the trees. A pillar of light penetrated the oppressive dark, and in the moonlight, I could see my assailant. It was pale, made paler by the white moon, and hairless, thin, like it had not eaten in weeks. I want to say it looked humanoid, but comparing that thing to a human is just wrong. Its hunched back protruded out, making it look larger than any human. It stood on all fours in such a way that no human could. Its rear low to the ground, its long legs bent in such a grotesque fashion that it almost resembled a frog ready to leap. It circled around silently, searching for me. I thought it was about to give up, but it threw its horrendous back upwards, and its legs straightened, and it stood, on two legs, like a person, a deformed, horrific human. And then it looked at me. It looked right at me. It saw me. I know it saw me. Nothing looks at you like that without seeing you. I could tell you the color of its damn eyes, and I bet you that it could tell you the color of mine. I clenched the rifle close to my chest, too scared to use it, too scared to move. I closed my eyes and waited for it to pounce, and then I opened my eyes and it was gone. I didn't move for the rest of the night. I fell asleep in that bush, cuddling with the rifle, until finally being awoken by the sound of birds. Birds. Thank God, birds. It was already daylight the next morning. I wearily stood up, using the rifle as a crutch to support my aching body. Things seemed to be normal. The forest was speaking once again. The birds and deer were plenty. I stumbled back to my camp to find my things mostly as I had left them. My tent was unsalvageable, but I took my backpack, had something to eat, and I left, just like I had planned. The entire trek back, I didn't stop looking around for that thing. I didn't even let the gun leave my hands either. It wasn't until I got into the car that I relaxed, calling my friend to tell him that I was heading home. I didn't tell him about what had happened last night. I was still trying to process it myself. Shit, I don't even think I understand wholly what had happened until after the car ride home. And that's where the story ends. 6 years ago, and I haven't gone camping since. I haven't seen the thing again, nor have I heard of anyone who's seen it. As a whole, my life has moved on completely, but I will never forget that thing. I will never forget how it stared at me, and how it just left. It knew I was there, but it left. Why did it do that? I don't think I'll ever get an answer.